Okay, hi guys, welcome to this orientation session for the SBR, which is the Strategic Business Reporting. This is Luqman Rafiq here in front of you. I am the tutor for the course Strategic Business Reporting. Before I go on to start discussing about this course, let me introduce myself. I have been in teaching profession for more than 13 years now, teaching the different qualifications including the ACCA, ICAW, the ICAP, which is the Pakistani Chartered Accountancy Qualification, CIMA of UK. These are the four major qualifications that I have been teaching for the past 13 years. Amongst the different courses that I've been teaching, I have been teaching the financial reporting area, I've been teaching financial management, and I've been teaching performance management and auditing. So these are the different type of syllabuses, different type of subjects that I teach. My relationship with reporting is that I was myself a place winner in reporting. That was basically for the paper of FR. Previously it used to be 2.5 at the time when I actually attempted this paper. So I'm myself a place winner for this paper SBR, this reporting paper, which was FR paper at that time. So we are going to start off. I have in front of me the syllabus for the September 2022 to June 2023 examination. I would discuss the syllabus in detail. I would guide you through that what exactly are the different syllabus area, how exactly is the syllabus examined, the different type of things I'm going to discuss with you people. So now, if I just move a bit forward and if I take you people through, I'm just going to open up the relational diagram of this SBR syllabus. It's a very important study for this relational diagram. You could see that there is this SBR, FR, financial accounting, and then there is this AAA. So this relational diagram, ACCA does it for every single syllabus that it prepares. It creates a relational diagram that gives you a connection as to what this paper is connected to with respect to the earlier paper and where is this paper going to be connected to for the subsequent papers. So you could actually see that this paper of SBR, the strategic business reporting, has a connection with the financial reporting paper. And obviously the financial accounting paper had a connection with the financial reporting. And ultimately you could see that this connection goes on to the AAA paper also. Now, let me just explain to you at the financial accounting level, we discuss about the basic accounting plus some of the accounting standards plus some of the consolidation is discussed at this level. Then what actually happens is that we then move on to the next level, and at this next level with respect to the financial reporting level, we talk about the different type of accounting standards, we talk about ratios, we talk about the group accounts also. And now when we are going to be talking about the SBR, so every single thing that you have studied at the financial accounting, at the financial reporting, every single thing at that level is also going to be examinable at the SBR level. Plus, in addition to this, what is going to happen is that there are going to be additional accounting standards. There are going to be the additional consolidation areas. Plus, furthermore, there are other directives, the other things that are being issued by the IASB or other things which are part and parcel of the syllabus. So that is also going to be discussed. So generally what we are going to be doing is that we're going to be discussing all of these aspects, with respect to the SBR syllabus, and all of these aspects means that F7 is important, plus the additional knowledge, the additional information is also important. And once you have done SBR, you would be eligible to go for the AAA, because with respect to AAA, a lot of people think that it's an advanced version of F8, but I think that it's not an advanced version of F8, it's an advanced version of SBR. You got to have good accounting standards knowledge to be able to do AAA. So 50% of AAA is based on accounting standards knowledge. So you got to have good accounting standards knowledge if you got to do the AAA paper. So but anyways, that's what something that we would actually be doing. Now, I'm going to move a bit forward and I'm going to discuss further about this syllabus. So let me just give you a bit of guidance about the different type of syllabus areas. You could actually see that amongst the different type of syllabus areas, there's this section A, which is fundamental, ethical, and the professional principles, which is connected to financial reporting framework, which is connected to reporting the financial performance of entities, which is connected to financial statements of group entities, which is connected to interpretation of financial statement. You see these connections, this, all of these connections. You could see that these connections are actually there. Uh, So you could see that there are different connections of this fundamental ethical and professional principles with the different areas of SBR, which is financial reporting framework, the reporting of financial performance by the entities, plus financial statement of group entities and interpretation of financial. Then there is this another area which is having a connection everywhere, and that is actually the impact of changes in the accounting regulation, which is more commonly known with the SBR as the current issues area. And then you see the employability and the technology skills. So let me just give you a bit of an idea that what is this technology and the employability skills before I go on to discuss the other aspects of the syllabus. So when we talk about the employability and the technology skills, what is the examiner expecting us to do? What is the examiner's expectations from us? That is something we need to discuss. So you know this thing that all the papers of ACCA have now become CBE based practice papers. And when they have become a CBE practice paper, so the examiner is expecting from you as a student that you will be. What is the examiner expecting? That you will be able to handle the word processing document. The examiner is expecting that you would be able to handle the spreadsheets. So when you would be able to handle the word processing document, when you would be able to handle the spreadsheets, so these are the skills which are gonna make you work ready. You'll go into the workplace and you don't have to learn the Excel. You don't have to learn the word functionalities. You're directly ready to go and start working on the spreadsheet package. So having these skills would actually the dealing, giving the answers on the spreadsheets, preparing the answers on the Word documents would actually enhance your typing skills, would actually enhance your skills of handling these documents, and they are the employability and the technology skill which the examiner is trying to develop. So now, if I talk about this skill, this is not something new. You would say, we already do that. It is not something new for us. But again, um, having this specific area in the syllabus is just to emphasize that we are trying to develop this skill. But you know this thing that you need to learn, you need to increase your typing speed, you need to learn how to deal with the spreadsheet package, you need to learn that how to apply different formulas, you need to learn how to connect the different cells, etc., etc. So you got to learn all these aspects, and you're going to be learning all these aspects. So, but generally, this is what this area is. Now, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to talk about each and every different aspect of this syllabus, these different areas of the syllabus. I'm going to discuss each and every area in detail. The first area that I'm going to be talking about is the section A and the section B of the syllabus, which is something that I think that I should actually be discussing about. So the first area is section A and section B of the syllabus that I will discuss. Now, what exactly is there with respect to section A and section B? Let's try to see. One of them is the fundamental ethical and the professional principles, and the other one of them is the financial reporting framework. Now, what do we mean by all this? You know this thing. You have already studied code of ethics at the AA level, at the business and technology paper. You already studied this code of ethics. You know that there are fundamental ethical principles of integrity, objectivity, professional competence, and due care. You know that there are ethical threats like self-interest, self-review, intimidation, advocacy, familiarity. There are different type of ethical issues that may arise. So what we actually need to do is that we need to have this knowledge of code of ethics in mind, and we need to integrate this knowledge with the corporate reporting scenarios. I repeat, we need to integrate this knowledge with the corporate reporting scenarios. So what are we going to do? We got to integrate this knowledge with the corporate reporting scenarios. So you would be given the different type of scenarios where the accountant may be doing intentionally wrong accounting. They would be intentionally ensuring that the business's profits they keep on increasing. They would be intentionally trying to overstate the assets, intentionally trying to understate the liabilities and things like that. So when such things are actually going to happen. I repeat, when such things are actually going to happen, so you as an accountant should know that what are the different ethical guidance that you have to apply in the given scenario. What are the ethical things that you have to apply in the given scenario? That is something that you would actually have to discuss. Now, if I move a bit forward and if I discuss a bit further, so let me just give you a bit more idea that what exactly is the examiner going to expect from you. Now, so this is something that I've explained to you people. Now, the second thing is about the financial reporting framework. When I talk about the concept of financial reporting framework, try to understand what this financial reporting framework is going to be. Generally, in any country, if there is a law that is made, so the underlying principle of developing a law is to have a constitution in that country. There's a constitution. The constitution governs the law. You got to look at the constitution to see what is allowed and what is not allowed. What is in accordance with the principles that are allowed or acceptable in the country. What is not in accordance with the principles that are acceptable in the country. Same goes for the accounting standards also. IASB, the International Accounting Standard Boards, what they do is that they develop accounting standards. And when they develop the accounting standards, they have developed a conceptual framework which actually gives you an overall guidance about what an asset is, what a liability is, what an income is, what an expense is, what should be the recognition criteria, what should be the criteria for derecognition, etc., etc. So every single thing that we study in the accounting standard, all of those things have actually been defined. All those things that we study in the accounting standard, all of those things have actually been defined in the conceptual framework. It gives you an overall guidance. It gives you an overall outline that what an asset should be, how an accounting should be done, what an accounting standard should be. Now, generally what happens in any country is that constitution is developed first, the laws are developed later on. I bet generally what would happen in any country is that constitution is developed first and the laws would be developed later on. But in the case of IASB, they developed the accounting standards. They applied the accounting standards. Then came a time when they realized that having these accounting standards without a constitution is actually causing problems to us. So then IASB came up with a conceptual framework which defined all these definitions. Now the problem that arose was that the conceptual framework was contradictory to the accounting standards in a lot of cases. So over a period of time, the accounting standards have been amended to whatever extent that is practically possible. Plus the conceptual framework has been amended to whatever extent that has been needed. And as a result of this, right now, where do we stand right now? We stand right now in a situation that the conceptual framework is being constantly, regularly updated, amended. And the accounting standards are also regularly being amended. So just make sure that the framework and the standards are aligned. But again, there are few limitations that the IASB has, and they have to live up with those limitations. Unfortunately, they have to live up with those limitations. They don't have a choice. So, but anyways, what are we going to be discussing in this area? We're going to be discussing that what is the conceptual framework, what does it define, what are its strengths, what are its weaknesses, What are the amendments that should be made to the conceptual framework to make it more meaningful? Okay, so that's one area. Now what happens is that you've got the other area, which is the reporting the financial performance of a range of entities. Now, if you would look at this area has got all the accounting standards. This area has got all the accounting standards that are actually examinable at this SBR level. Now, what are those accounting standards which are at the SBR level? Let's just try to understand this. If I actually tell you this thing, so you've got the revenue, the IFRS 15. We're going to discuss in detail over here that how the revenue recognition should be done. What are the aspects that you need to keep in mind when recognizing the revenue, things like that. Then you've got non-current asset, which would actually be including everything. You talk about IAS 16 for the property, plant, equipment. You talk about IAS 20 for the government grants. You talk about IAS 23 for the borrowing cost. You talk about IAS 36 for the impairment. You talk about IAS 38 for the intangibles, 40 is for the investment property, 41 for the agriculture. By the way, 41 is not part of course in detail. Then you've got IFRS 5, which is non-current assets held for sale and discontinuing operation. So when we talk about the non-current assets, all of the accounting standard, which you have already studied at the FR level, are again examinable at this level. And what happens is that they are examinable. You get around 10, 15, 20 marks from these accounting standards as part and parcel of the different adjustments in the exam. And you got to be very good at this. So what you would do is that you would have a complete detailed assessment of what these non-current assets are, how do we account for the non-current assets, etc., etc. That is also something that we are going to be discussing. Then financial instruments, the students, they run away from it. So that would include IAS 32, that would include IFRS 7, that would include IFRS 9. All these accounting standards would be included in here. So now when all these accounting standards would be included in here, so what is actually going to happen? Try to understand. What is actually going to happen is that we are going to be not just discussing that what a financial asset is, what a financial liability is, what is financial asset at fair value through P&L, what is financial asset at fair value through OCI or amortized cost. We're going to be discussing in detail. We'll be talking about derivatives, the forward contracts, the future contracts, the swaps, the interest rate options, the currency options, the commodity options. We'll be talking about how the hedging is done, how it impacts the accounting. We'll be talking about how the different type of treatments could actually be inferred upon with respect to financial instruments. So there is a lot of things that we are going to be discussing. It's a complete in detailed examination that's there with respect to financial instrument at the SBR level. Then leases, not much of a difference with respect to the leases at the FR level and the SBR level, except that there is an accounting for the lesser that is added up at this SBR level. Otherwise, the lessee accounting is there, the sale and lease back is there, and then there is this lesser accounting. Then there is this IAS 19, which is about the employee benefits. Now, when it comes to IAS 19, the employee benefits, what happens with the employee benefits is that as an organization, you pay different benefits to the employees. That could include the salaries, the pensions, the provident funds, the gratuity, the termination, the leave encashments, etc., etc. How do we account for all those benefits? So that's done under IAS 19. How do we account for all those benefits? That's done under IAS 19 employee benefits. So we're going to be discussing that also. Then you've got income taxes. Now, IAS 12 covers up income taxes. we do discuss at FR level, but that's very, very, very small. So at the SBR level, IAS 12 is completely examinable. There's going to be integration between the IAS 12 and the different accounting standard, that how IAS 12 and IAS 16 interact, how IAS 12 and IAS 36 interact, how IAS 12 and IAS 23 interact, then IAS 12 and IAS 40, IAS 12 and IAS 19, so on and so forth. So there is actually going to be a connection of IAS 12, the deferred taxes, the income taxes, with every single accounting standard that is part and parcel of the course. So it's going to be a very, very comprehensive study with respect to IAS 12. You've got provisions, contingent liabilities, contingent asset, IAS 1037. You study this at FA level, you study this at FR level, but believe me, you would love it when you'll come at SBR level. Why? Because even at the SBR level, they examine amazing questions with respect to this area. So you would love it. You've got share-based payment. It's covered under IFRS 2. Let's take an example of it. You import machinery, you import plants, you import equipment. You tell your supplier, we don't have money, we don't have cash. So supplier would actually charge you extra amount if you want to buy on credit, obviously. You tell the supplier that, look, I am not interested in buying it for credit and pay extra amount. Let's try to find a different way out. Now, what's that different way out? Okay, we would commit that we will give you X many number of shares of the company. So we will give you X many number of shares of the company. You supply goods to us. So what happens is that if the supplier thinks that your company is a high growth company, has a future potential, has a good future ahead, he would probably accept these shares as a consideration. So share-based payment transactions, IFRS 2, is one of those accounting standards where what we actually do is that we talk about that how an organization is going to account for the shares that it gives to its employees, the shares that it gives to its suppliers, the cash payments that it gives to suppliers and the employees linked to its shares. So that is something that we are going to be discussing, and an altogether new area for you people, and believe me, you would love it. Then IFRS 13, a lot of accounting standards require you to apply fair value. You calculate fair value in IAS 16. You calculate fair value in IAS 36. You calculate fair value in 38. You calculate fair value in 40, 41, IFRS 5. You calculate the fair value in many accounting standards. So how is that fair value determined? IFRS 13 guides you. So we're going to be discussing what is fair value concept, how is fair value measured, what are the different principles that IFRS 13 gives us, guides us. So we're going to be discussing that. Every company cannot afford to have a chartered accountant. Every company cannot afford to have an experienced ACC on board. There are SMEs, the small medium sized entities. Those small medium sized entities, they have limitations. They cannot have such type of things like they cannot uh, prepare IFRS compliant financials. So there's an IFRS for SMEs. It's one of those IFRS that's comprehensive, that's concise, that's not very much detailed, that has been prepared. And the objective of having that IFRS is that so that the small medium sized organizations, if they are unable to afford, if they are unable to prepare IFRS compliant financials, what they could simply do is that they could adapt the IFRS for SME, which reduces the requirements of compliances, which eliminates fair value measurement in a lot of areas, and which actually allows a small size entity to actually prepare financials easily. So that is also going to be an area that we'll discuss. Then if I move forward, so you've got the group accounts, and for the group accounts, I can just give you a bit of a guidance over here. You would talk about the step acquisition. What's a step acquisition? You had a 10% shareholding, it became 40%, it became 60%, it became 90%. We talk about the group disposals. The different type of group disposals that we are going to be talking about. You had a 60% shareholding, you turn into zero. You had a 80% shareholding, you reduce it to 55%. You had a 80% shareholding, you reduce it to 30%. You had a 80% shareholding, it's not 800, it's 80. You reduce it to 10%, etc., etc. So what would happen is that you're going to be discussing about the group disposals also. That how do we account for the group disposals? How do we actually have how do we prepare financials where a subsidiary has been disposed of, where a shareholding in subsidiary has been disposed of, where the subsidiary has been converted into associate, where the subsidiary has been converted into an investment. We're going to be discussing all that. Plus, in addition to this, we would be talking about foreign subsidiary. We shall be talking about the group cash flows also. So we'll be talking about these additional aspects. So everything that you study at FR, that's examinable. Plus, in addition to this, there's going to be foreign subsidiary, group cash flow, group disposal, step acquisition, all of these additional areas that are going to be examined. And consolidation is mandatory 25-30 mark area in the examination. Then if we go about, there are these two aspects, which is interpret financials for different stakeholders. You already have knowledge about financial ratios, but here there are going to be other ratios also, non-financial ratios, the special financial ratios that we are going to be discussing, and we're going to be interpreting the company's financials on the basis of those areas. And lastly, there is this area which is called current issues. Let me give you an idea what current issues is all about. When we talk about the current issues, so whatever have been recent developments with respect to reporting, those areas are examinable in the current issues. Now, what are the recent developments? See, try to understand. A new accounting standard issued. Amendments to an accounting standard, amendments to existing accounting standard. The latest development in financial world, like cryptocurrencies and all, plus the proposed amendments, etc., etc. So the new accounting standards that have been recently issued. So you may actually be asked, what was the accounting under the old standard? What is the accounting under new standard? How will it impact company's performance? An existing accounting standard is amended. You may actually be asked, what was the amendment? What was the reason for amendment? Why the amendment was done, etc., etc. Then there could actually be the latest development in the financial worlds, like the cryptocurrencies, the digitalizations, the new ways of raising finance, like initial coil offerings, crowdfundings, etc. So all of this is also going to be examined. Plus, there are proposed amendments to accounting standard, that XYZ thing in an accounting standard is proposed to be changed. XYZ amendment is proposed to be made, etc., etc. There could be multiple type of amendments that could be proposed. So all of that is going to be examined. Now, this SBR course is not a straightforward course. I believe that it's the lengthiest course of the whole ACCA. But again, you would look at the pass rate, it's approximately 50%, means a good pass rate. AFM course is smaller. AAA is smaller, APM is smaller, ATX is a slightly larger, lengthier. But those three papers and plus ATX, they all have a pass rate of 30s, 32, 33, 34. This has almost 50% pass rate. That means even though it's lengthy, but it's manageable. It's easier to pass. It's manageable to pass provided you have the right direction, provided you have the right approach. If you don't have the right direction, you won't be able to pass. But if you have the right approach, the right direction, you will be able to pass. Now, how exactly am I going to be teaching this SBR course? So let me just give you a bit of a guidance that how do I teach. My teaching is online blended, which is a mixture of live and recorded. I mean, my teaching is online blended, which is a mixture of live and recorded. So when you enroll with us, you get pre-recorded lectures, which is being given as an access to you people. And what happens is that Uh, the second class that I'm going to be conducting after this, I shall be sharing a planner with you people as to what topics to do, when to do, how to do, things like that. Then I shall be having a weekly live class, and in that weekly live class, I shall be discussing with you. I repeat, in that weekly live class, I shall be giving you an agenda in advance that this is the topic that you should come up with. I'll be having a class, I'll be discussing the queries, I'll be discussing the problems that you have, and I'll be answering all your questions. Plus, there are going to be assignments that I will give you pertaining to every single topic, and there are going to be videos which are going to be made available pertaining to those assignments so that once you have actually attempted it, you could just see that the way it should have been done, the way the things should have happened, etc., etc. What else is there? The next situation is going to be, just wait a bit, please. Okay, the next aspect of this is going to be that you all would be part of a WhatsApp group, and we will do a lot of interactions there also, inshallah. Plus, what is going to happen is that we will be doing, we will be having live revision classes in the last month before the examination. They are going to be 3 to 5 days online live classes that I'll do with a duration of 5 to 8 hours of each class. They're going to be comprehensive revision that I will do with you people. So overall, resultingly, this is the approach that I will adopt. And believe me, you would fall in love with accounting. You would fall in love with reporting once you start studying this course. You would start getting to know things inside out. You will get things inside out. You'll get the things in detail, and you would fall in love with this subject. So uh, that's all about the introduction of the SBR. And I would like to keep it till here. In case if any one of you have got any questions, you're most welcome to ask. I'll be happy to answer. Plus, uh, whatever queries that you have, you may actually contact me on my phone also. A lot of you people already have. You will just share the contact details also through the emails and the WhatsApp to you people. So if there is any question you may ask, and I'll be happy to answer. And we will now meet up in our next class where we are going to start discussing about the planner and few other things with respect to with respect to this, that how to handle the course and all. So in case if any one of you have got any questions, you are most welcome to ask.